Hi guys, it's Jack with FromJoeToPro.com, and today I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about composing exercises. So if you happen to be, studying composing in school, which is something that I did and, was such a great part of my life, I really enjoyed working on, learning traditional harmony and counterpoint exercises and all that. Well, I just wanted to give you a little bit of inspiration to keep working on basics and keep working on specific composing exercises. So the truth is that it's hard to always be inspired, right? And it's a big deal to write a full piece of music where you're composing the chord progression and the melody, and the chord progression makes great sense and the melody works awesome with it. It happens when we stumble across these things, when we feel inspired, when we sit down and we do it. It's awesome, right? But if you're like me and like a lot of other composers, you may not always feel that inspiration to get fully creative, doing this whole process, right? So that's where composing exercises come in, because you can keep working, you can keep being creative, but you're just getting a little help, right? It's like having a writing partner when you do a composing exercise. And now if you're in, school for composing, or even just taking a music theory class in any kind of classical school, you typically get a harmony textbook. And a lot of times you get, figure bass exercises and you write the melody, or, sometimes they give you a melody to compose the chords or the lower end parts too, right? And my problem is that sometimes these textbooks they're written by excellent music educators, but a lot of times, they write their melodies they want you to compose to, and themselves, and it's not always the most inspirational melody work. So I wanted to share a book with you guys that I absolutely love, and it's actually an ear training book by Maurice Lieberman, and it's just called Ear Training and Sight Singing by Maurice Lieberman. Maurice Lieberman was a composer, instrumentalist, and music educator, and he was really, really big on people getting away from the movement that classical music has been shifting to for the last 80 years, which is, producing these technical monsters, these wonderful readers, but less and less are the musicians going through a classical program, they're not less and less holistic. They can do their job. They've become super specialists and, super high level specialists. They're violinists, they're piano players, they read like monsters, they've got great technique, but a lot of them are lacking a big picture about music. And what Maurice Lieberman wanted for musicians is he wanted every musician to be able to compose. He wanted every musician to be able to take a melody and write a lower end part to it, or take a chord progression and write a great melody to it, right? So that was his philosophy, and that happens to be my philosophy as well. And he has this sight singing book, and really the point of this book, is to work on your sight singing, right? But I think it's just a wonderful book because it's such a great collection of melodies from 100 different composers in all different eras of music. So it's this wonderful resource if you want to start writing some harmonization exercises where you take the melody and you write an accompaniment to it. Okay, so that's how I use this book. I'll go through, I'll sight read a melody, and then after I've sight read the melody, I try to say, hey, can I write some chords to this or a lower end part to it? And it's really, really fun for me. And sometimes I take it all the way where I write a lower end part, I put it into my notation software, which happens to be Finale, then I take it into my DAW, which happens to be Logic Pro, and then I use sound module sounds, and I create a whole orchestral piece based off these exercises. And even though I didn't write the melody, I still feel like, man, I wrote an accompaniment, I orchestrated it, I produced it. It becomes a whole thing, and I feel pretty proud of it, even though it's it's still on the one hand just an exercise. On the other, you can do a lot with it. So I just want to kind of go through my process and kind of try to hopefully inspire you guys as composing students to realize this resource is here. You can get this particular book. I highly recommend, because again, it's just this massive collection of melodies, but just really the concept of when you're not inspired, you can keep being creative and keep working by doing these kinds of cool exercises. Of course, the textbooks, that you get, with the harmonization exercises or writing the melody to a figure bass, that's great too. But this is an additional resource that, most people aren't going to tell you about, okay? So, for example, today I looked at this melody by Gluck, and it's in F sharp minor, okay? And I won't sight sing it for you, I'll just play the melody. Do, la, ti, sol, la, fa, re, do, ti, la, ti, sol, la, fa, re, do, ti, la, do, re, mi, fa, do, fa, la, do, fa, mi, re, do, re, do, ti, la, ti, sol, la, fa, re, do, ti, la, ti, sol, la, fa, do, fa, do, re, do, ti, la, sol, la, ti, fa, mi, fa. Okay, so after sight singing and playing and sight singing and all that, we start kind of trying to think about, hey, what would make sense? So in the beginning, we have this kind of repeating figure that's like the main little hook, right? Do, la, ti, sol, la, fa. And clearly, it's all about outlining the F sharp minor chord, the main chord, the one chord, right? Because we start with a C, then we hit the A, we have a little jump up tone, and then we hit the G going into the A, and then we have the F. Okay, so we can probably see that as something, maybe like a 5-1-5 chord progression. But what I kind of settled into doing is creating a little counterpoint line with it. The F sharp with the A, the E with the G sharp, the F sharp. And then I just kept going because we started with this little descending line idea that follows the. And I could keep going. Yes, I could have done a counterpoint jump to match the D that comes up next. La, sol, fa, re, do. It's really about that C, right? So it's, at its heart, it's La, sol, fa, do, la, sol, fa. That's the heart of the figure. Okay, so if we kind of reduce the figure to its bare elements, we get kind of a counterpoint idea, right? Do, la, sol, fa, and that's being decorated with these little escape tones. Ba, da, ba, da, ba, da, da, ba, da, ba, da, ba. Right? So in the beginning, I chose to do counterpoint. Against my A, I have an F sharp, so basically I'm going thirds to an octave. Thirds to an octave. Okay? Now I kind of fleshed that out. Of course, the melody's already fleshed out with its little escape tones. And that D. And I decided to make it all like a one chord, since this descending bass in minor tunes. It's not uncommon to keep the harmony tones of your one chord over a descending bass. So I'm basically doing like F sharp to A C sharp, and then E to A C sharp, D to A C sharp, C sharp to A C sharp. And that makes a cool little intro for the main riff at the beginning of the song. Okay. Next we have A, C, D sharp, D sharp, F sharp. So we have a little outline of the one chord going into the melodic minor version of the scale. And then we just have straight arpeggio of the one chord. So that would to me indicate what? A 1. The melodic minor element indicates the 5 chord back to the 1. Right? So that part we could play, with different inversions if we wanted to. So when we go back to the 1, I went root position 1, and I root position 5 chord. Then I don't want to resolve right now because it's a little early in the melody to resolve fully, so I go into a second inversion, 1 chord, C sharp, F sharp, A. Instead of going the next little line down, it's just like outlining the 5 chord, right? Like if it was in the 5 chord area, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 2, 1, 7, 6, 5 of the scale, right? So for sure we could play. That's a little too boring for me. So instead I went to the 4 chord. So it made it a little kind of a non-chord tension tone, G sharp that resolves into the F sharp. When I play F sharp, B, D, an inversion of the 4 chord, minor 4, and then I get this cool sound that I really like there. Now, if I get rid of any other sound, it's okay to have the descending melodic line, which conflicts with the D sharp against that 4 chord. So if I want to maintain the 4 chord, I either have to kind of back off and just let it be melody at that point, or I could, get to the 5 chord a little earlier. Maybe go through some inversions of the 5 chord. That almost creates like an octave effect. Okay. I might just let it ring. I don't know. Okay, I really like this. Yeah, maybe that. Create a little counterpoint. So again, the issue is I could just do a 5 chord. Too boring. If I do the 4 chord, it sounds awesome for that part, but then it doesn't sound great over to the descending line because I have a clash between the D and the D sharp, right? I don't want to go up to the D sharp or anything like that. I don't want to keep the D sharp, so I need something else to do. So I do a little other version of the 5 chord by going E, G sharp, while the melody has got that E sharp, D sharp. So I go E sharp, G sharp, E sharp, D sharp, and it creates a little line. And I have a little bit of an octave jump, but not really. Sounds okay. Okay? So far. And then we have a quick 16th note D. And then I do that same idea as before, where now I have a C sharp B. I could harmonize it more directly, but I like the idea of playing that 4 chord again. So I'm using my 3 primary chords, my 1, 4, and 5. And you can get fancier and fancier as you go, but at the heart of what you're doing, always start with the basics, like 1 chord's home bass, 5 chord is tension, 4 chords or 2 chords or 6 chords are nice ways to lead into your 5 chords. And of course there's sequences, there's always, 5 of 5s, chains of 5 of 5s. There's always more and more techniques. But your basics is where you want to start, right? And even just if you tweak your basics by just kind of using them at unexpected places where the melody note clashes with the chord, which that's what I'm kind of shooting for. So I'm staying very basic with my chords, but I'm trying to use them at interesting places to create a little tension in the melody against the chord while still having a structurally simple idea for the chord progression, right? So that's what I did here. And I'm doing it again here. When I have the C sharp to B, I'm playing the 4 chord again in second inversion, F sharp, B, D. And then now the C sharp is like the 9 resolving down to the 1. Right? Right? And then I'm back to the first little theme comes back. And then this time, the melody is D, C sharp, B, A. Well, that outlines perfectly with the 4 chord again. This time it's nothing tense in it. I mean, I could have gone to the 5 chord. There's all kinds of things. I can make this tense against the 5 chord and then go to the 4 chord. That sounds good, actually. Or I could have done. So a more direct harmonization for this little figure, which is B, C, B, A, G, A, B, F. Direct correct harmonization would be like, okay, D, C, B, A. The D and the B are on the strung parts of the beats, so that might, suggest the 4 chord. And then next is G sharp, A, B, F sharp. That G, A, B suggests the 5 chord. But we could reverse that. We could play the 5 chord here. So then it's like kind of tense, with melodies like pushing against the chord. The D wants to resolve down, the B doesn't belong either. Neither does the A, in fact. And then we got this G sharp that's tense against the 4 chord. And then we've got an F sharp, E sharp, F sharp. Generally at the end of a melody, at the end of the phrase, if you've been kind of trying to be tricky with your chords at all and play tension notes in the melody against your chords, now's the time to stop doing that. Because you're kind of wrapping things up, you want to kind of get more normal. So, and that indicates, in this kind of setting, we want to get normal by playing the chords that would normally harmonize those tones. So maybe like, if you want to, you could play the F sharp in second inversion. Another name for that is a cadential 5-6-4 chord, because in a way it's really a 5 chord with a couple, suspension tones in the 6 and the 4 that kind of decorate the regular root, the root third fifth. So it's like root 4-6, root 3-5. Right? That's a cadential 5-6-4, and they always sound good. You could stretch it out. You could put like fermatas over these guys and add a little effect like that. Right? So here's one pass. So I'm not sure. For the ending phrase, maybe it is better to play, the chords that would be more normally harmonized with this melody and tone. But we come in a half beat early with the 1 chord. Yeah, I like that better. So I'm going to just go normal at the end. So here's the whole thing. Okay, and I think it sounds good, and I'm happy with what I did there, because I took something that, like, if you're not paying attention, just play through. Oh, okay, whatever. It's just a sight singing exercise that's really repetitious. But then if you kind of go, hey, I want to understand the music. Why is this melody cool? If I play it well, if I kind of put some life into it, it's a good melody, And again, that's the thing about this book is all the melodies are good. It's a collection of great melodies. So then if I kind of work on, coming up with parts that support these great melodies, I'm learning a lot. I'm learning a lot about how music is constructed. I'm being creative. I'm combining my understanding of counterpoint and harmony together. It just overall works for me in a way that, I'm happy with, right? So anyways, I just wanted to share that with you guys and, give you some ideas about like, hey, what do I do when I want some inspiration, We can't always be like full-on super creative, but we can always find ways to work on our creativity through doing drills, right? And so for a composer, there's really nothing better than like taking a chord progression, like a figure bass, and writing a great melody to it, and then the reverse. And again, the problem that I've seen is that most of the textbooks, when they have a melody that they want you to harmonize, maybe they don't want you to have famous set melodies because they figure you might already have played it or something. I don't know what the reason is. But a lot of times it's the authors of the books. And while most of the time the authors of the books are themselves excellent composers and they do write melodies that can be very interesting, they're not going to really be able to compete with a full book of fantastic melodies by a collection of hundreds of famous composers. There's just no way that any one textbook author is going to be able to compete with 100 of the greatest composers in the world. And that's what you get with a kind of this particular book, this sight singing book. It's just a massive collection of wonderful melodies. So then when you're writing against that, it's like having a writing partner who's like a genius, right? If you got to work with a genius writing partner, then you're going to get better. You know what I mean? It's just like if Tiger Woods moved in next door and said, hey, we want to play golf with me every day, what do you think is going to happen to your golf game? It's going to go through the roof, right? So this is this work by these geniuses, and you get to interact with them. You just get the melody element, you write the rest. It's like you have a genius writing partner, right? So it's gonna up your game a little bit, right? So I hope that you found this idea insightful. I really enjoy these types of exercises, and I really enjoyed filming this lesson today. I hope that you enjoyed it. And if you have any questions, please reach out to me. Go check out fromjoetopro.com. It's a lot geared towards guitar players, but there's a lot of basic theory information in there about diatonic theory, blues and rock, so that might be something you're interested in. And if you're otherwise interested in composing or different styles of piano playing or anything like that, then feel free to reach out to me and say hi, and we can chat a little bit, and that would be great. So thanks again, guys. I hope you had fun, and I look forward to seeing you in the next lesson. Thanks.